So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to week 3 of the Spring 2022 Bright Futures Career Speaker Series. The Bright Futures Career Speaker Series is an educational webinar series sponsored by the Napa County Office of Education, Marin County Office of Education, Napa Valley College, College of Marin, and the Workforce Alliance of the North Bay. Today's presentation topics will cover careers and jobs in the trades. And as people are logging on today, I'd like to do a quick round of introductions. My name is Sita Williams, and I work for the Workforce Alliance of the North Bay. Also moderating today will be Angela Higdon from the Napa County Office of Education. Presenting today, we have Ken Miller, Sabrina Martin, and Jeremy Picanum. And with that, I'm going to say we are recording this webinar, so if you would like to view it at a later time, or some of your classmates or other people would like to look at it, please just email us. I'll make sure to put my email in the chat. So why do we offer a Career Speaker Series? Well, first we'd like to introduce you to some of our local professional experts. We'd like to introduce you to jobs that you may not have heard about before, and we'd like to help you to make informed decisions about the next steps on your career path, whether you are a student or a job seeker. And what to expect today. The presentation hour will include an introduction, speaker panel discussion time, and question and answer time. Please use the chat function of the webinar to ask your questions. We will repeat the questions out loud to the speakers. And with that, Angela, I'm going to hand the mic over to you.
All right, thanks everybody for being here. I'd like to start, if we can, with our panelists each introducing themselves. So Jeremy, can you tell us, you're going to introduce yourself, tell us the organization you're with and your role with the organization.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank everyone for having me. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. My name is Jeremy Picanum, and I am a union representative of IBEW Local 180, which stands for the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Local Union 180, which covers Napa and Solano counties.
Great, thanks, Jeremy. Welcome. Sabrina, how about you?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm Sabrina Martin with the Operating Engineers Apprenticeship. I am an apprenticeship coordinator. I cover Napa, Solano, Sonoma, Mendocino, and Lake County. I would help you progress through our apprenticeship program and to gain the skills to become a journeyman operator, a mechanic, a crane apprentice, or even a dredgerman.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sabrina. And last but not least, Ken Miller.
Good afternoon, Ken Miller, business agent, organizer for Ironworkers Local 378. We cover Alameda, Contra Costa, Napa, Solano, Lake, Mendocino counties.
Great, thank you so much. So Ken, we're going to start with you with the next question. When did you decide you wanted to work in the trades? And how long have you worked in your industry?
So I've been in the Ironworkers Union for 29 years. I was 29 years old when I started, so you can do the math. I had started because I was working one full-time job and one part-time job, and I didn't have any money in a savings account. I was living paycheck to paycheck, and I had met this really cool girl. And I could see having a big boy relationship with this girl, you know, someone to grow old with and have a family with. And I couldn't see how I could make that possible working two dead-end jobs. You know, how are you going to provide for a family with that? So a friend of my father's told me, oh man, quit crying, go down, sign up for the Ironworkers Union. Because he was an ironworker, he was a journeyman. And I said, well, what's an ironworker? And he said, you don't have to know. They have an apprenticeship program. They'll teach you. Just go down and sign up. And so that's what I did. And 29 years later, here I am.
So I'm going to piggyback on what you just said a little bit. And I would love to have each of the panelists explain this a little bit better too. what does somebody in the Ironworkers Union do?
So ironworkers, we do a lot of heavy construction. So structural steel for doing high-rise buildings. We do a lot of rebar placement. Anytime you pour concrete in California, California is a seismically active area. We have a lot of earthquakes. So you put rebar in the concrete. That way the concrete doesn't break apart if there's an earthquake. We do a tremendous amount of welding. We do the big glass panels on the outside of high-rise buildings. We do those. We do architectural metals like stairs, handrails, barrier rails, that kind of stuff. And we work a lot with cranes and rigging. We don't operate them, we signal them. Operating them would be the OE3 with Sabrina.
All right, thank you so much. So Sabrina, with that, we'll turn it over to you. Same question. When did you decide that you wanted to work in the trades, and how long have you done it? And can you explain a little bit about what the operating engineers do?
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough that someone gave me this opportunity so young. I was 18 years old, graduated. I was attending community college at Solano. I was going there at nighttime, attending college at night and working as a part-timer for a construction company. And the company offered me a position as an apprentice operator. And at the time, I think I was making $14 an hour. And I said, well, how much do they make? And they said 18. And I was like, oh my gosh, sign me up. You know, I thought this is my end all be all. At 18, I was living on my own. Financially, I was sharing a room, renting a room. So for me, at the time, I didn't know this opportunity would be giving me everything I want and what I am today. I went through the apprenticeship program, and then within 5 years, I bought my first house. I was financially stable. I had the skills of a journeyman. It gave me the confidence that I didn't have at that time. I didn't continue with the college because this is the route I knew I wanted to do. I've been in it for 14 years now. I did 12 of that in the field, and the last 2, I've been on staff with the operating engineers. For a woman in this trade, definitely you are a minority, but once you learn to have thick skin, once you show up every day, you're willing to learn, you're willing to help out, you don't mind getting dirty. People want to help you. People want to see you succeed, because them teaching you that skill, when they retire, you're going to be paying for their retirement. So eventually, what goes around comes around. Now I can give back to people. When I see females all the time as laborers, I'm always trying to say, hey, what about being an operating engineer? Or if I see girls giving presentations, hey, you'd probably be a good operating engineers. And people don't think about that at first, but then they think, me, if she could do it, I could do it too. So I feel like I kind of represent that for people that don't have that confidence in themselves. You know, if they see me doing it, and then they could do it too. What is an operating engineer? We build roads, highways, bridges, dams. We hoist material into the air. So to piggyback off of what Ken said, we do work with the ironworkers, carpenters. We hoist their material into the air. So they signal us what they want us to do. That crane operator hoists their material to make that structural building, to set that glass panel. We have heavy duty repairmen. So those big equipment need to be maintained. They need to be repaired. We have grade setters. So those people, if you don't feel comfortable operating equipment, we have a program where you do the layout of the job. You read the plans, you put the markings on the ground. And you're the person in charge of the crew. Fastest way to become a foreman, fastest way to become a superintendent is being a grade setter. Concrete pump operators. So those people that are doing high-rise buildings, if you can't get that concrete there through a truck, we have a truck mounted boom that a concrete truck will back up to it, dump a load into this huge hopper, and then with the big boom, it will pour the concrete. So, and what else is there? Oh, dredgermen. We do represent the dredging people. So if you're out there on the bay and you see them excavating the ground under the water, those are dredgermen. We also represent them.
Wow, that's a lot.
That is, sorry,
Thank you.
maybe a little too
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. It just, I had no idea that the field was that big. That's great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Jeremy, same question to you.
Make sure we're unmuted there. Yeah, I've been in my trade for 22 years, working in the union, 24 years total in the trade, excuse me. My title is I'm the organizer and assistant business agent here at Local 180. I got into the trade, much similar stories to everyone else. It was an economic decision at the time. I was born and raised on the Susanville Indian Rancheria, which is northeastern California, a very economically depressed area. And the situation in the community was very economically depressed. So I was out of the house at 16 and a half, 17, around there, and been on my own ever since. And at that age, I was lucky enough to get a job gassing up the vehicles and sweeping the floors and things of this nature at a electrical shop in Dixon, California, just outside of Vacaville. I headed down towards the Bay Area to look for employment. From there, I progressed into being an electrician by 17, 18, and I've been doing it ever since. We have a broad scope of work as well, but to make it simple, I represent high voltage electricians, which are inside wiremen that do commercial industrial work. So everything from nuclear power plants to Taco Bells. And I also have a apprenticeship for what we call sound and comm electricians, or you could just commonly refer to them as low voltage electricians. And these are gentlemen that do fiber optics and computer networking and more of some of the high tech side of the field. And it has been very good to me. So I enjoy my current position as organizer. So if you're looking to join the union, perhaps you're an owner of an electrical business or just looking for employment yourself, you would come through me and my department, and I would be the one that would educate you, reach out to the public, and do webinars such as this.
Thanks, Jeremy, so much. Sabrina, you touched on this a little bit when you were speaking before, but I'd love it if you could delve in a little bit further about why you do what you do and what motivates you to go to work every day.
Why I do what I do is giving back to what someone gave to me. So someone gave me that opportunity. I took a hold of it and didn't let anything stop me. So I give back. I search for people that I could tell they're maybe struggling or they may need a kind of a handout, like, hey, if you go through this program, you can have a career, but you got to put the work into it. So I feel like I give back to those people who maybe don't have other opportunities, such as parents providing for them, or even if they thought that their career path down going to college wasn't there for them. I feel that my daughter, I have a 4-year-old daughter, and she sees me every day getting up, going to work. I'm a financial independent. I do have a partner, but I feel that my daughter looks up to me to see that she can be independent. She can make a career out of anything, from being a ditch digger to going to college. It's her choice. But I set the example of providing for yourself.
Great, thank you so much. Ken, what about you?
I was not good in school. Book learning for me was very difficult. And I went to Vintage High School in Napa way back when, and I never got to see a career counselor or guidance counselor or anything like that. So after high school, I went and found a job. I started working. And like I said, I met this young lady and I wanted more out of life. I got into the ironworkers because it was outside. It was working with my hands, and those were things that I could excel at. You know, going through the apprenticeship, like I said, I didn't know anything about it. My very first day, I was like a deer in the headlights, getting yelled at. Hey, go grab this, grab that. I said, I don't know what that is. Explain it to me or show it to me, and then I'll go grab it. But through the apprenticeship, I learned everything I needed to know to become a journeyman. The reason I still do what I do is because I ended up marrying that young lady I was talking about earlier. You know, when I joined the apprenticeship, back then it was a 3-year program. By the time I became a journeyman, I married that young lady. We bought a house together here in Napa, and I bought her a new car. So I'm not getting rich by any means, but I am comfortable. And I will be comfortable when I retire because of the benefits afforded to us through being a union member. So I go to work every day for my family.
That's great. Thank you. Jeremy, to you.
What motivates me in my current position, I guess, is a sense of duty. I consider it an honor and a pleasure to work for the local. I was raised in a tribal mentality with a tribal community, so I was always active with tribal politics and certain social organizations within my community. So when I was called upon to perform an organizer's job, which is, as we explained, the person that kind of reaches out and tries to grow the organization and educate, it was a good fit. And it was basically a sense of duty to the greater community. I was very lucky to wind up in a trade. I was very lucky to receive my education, and I think that should be passed on.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Jeremy, we're going to stay with you here for the next one. What are the key personality traits or the skills required for success as an electrician?
That's a good question. A little subjective at times. So my personal belief and the way I've been able to be somewhat successful in my career and the traits that I see that make other people successful is a sense of the group, the project, the community, the organization itself, and not so much concentrating on yourself, but working as a team. So the personality trait would be to be cooperative, to be a team player, I guess you could say. So that personality trait will take you very far within the trades because the trades operate as a unit. You'll find out very shortly the concrete guys own everyone, so you're real nice to them. And you need the cooperation of Local 3. I'm not going to carry something that's 100 pounds upstairs, that's for sure. So you need cooperation with every trade. So unity and cooperation would be the personality trait. The skills required to just be successful would be self-determination. There's going to be rainy days. There's going to be days that's 120 degrees. But if you have that within inside of yourself to muster through, you won't have a problem being an electrician.
Jeremy, what about math?
Yes, if you're talking about those particular skills, in my particular trade, if you would like to apply, we have 3 different requirements: be 18 years of age, have a high school diploma or GED, as well as Algebra 1. Now, the acronyms may have changed over the years. They may not call it Algebra 1 in your current school or educational program, wherever you may be attending the webinar from, but you can most certainly ask your instructor if you're taking the equivalent of Algebra 1. Algebra 1 these days is pretty much a requirement to graduate high school. So very many of you that are in college or high school right now have probably had it. You just need to verify that. You will need sealed transcripts to prove the fact that you've graduated and have Algebra 1 to apply. For those of you that aren't currently, maybe you're in college or you are done with your education, you're just attending the webinar, you can do a algebra certification through an online program, and we actually have links for that on our website. If you were just to Google IBEW Local 180, you can navigate yourself to an approved a third-party provider.
Great, thanks, Jeremy. Ken, how about you? What are the key personality traits and skills really required for success?
Key for being an iron worker is being on time. None of my contractors call me and say, hey, send me a guy, but it's only for part-time. When a contractor calls during dispatch hours and they say, hey, send me a couple of journeymen and an apprentice, it's for 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week minimum. A typical job, a typical day is from 7 to 3:30. So this job starts at 7 o'clock. That doesn't mean you're pulling into the parking lot, you're jumping out of your car and lacing up your boots. 7 o'clock starts means you're standing at the gang box, you have your boots on and laced, you have your tool belt on and laced, and you're actually ready to begin work at 7 o'clock. And show up every day. You don't feel, if your tummy hurts or you went out drinking the night before, I don't care, show up. That's how you're going to earn money. That's how you're going to build your reputation. If you're, as an apprentice, you build your reputation as being a part-time, you're going to have difficulty finding work. But if you show up every day on time and you work hard as an apprentice, you're going to build your reputation as a hard worker, and you're not going to have any trouble getting jobs. I have a saying that I use. People, whenever I meet with somebody and they're wanting to get into the trade, they always ask, hey, how's work? Will I be steady at work? Is there a lot of work to keep me busy? You know, that depends on you. Even in lean times, good workers are always working. So be a good worker and you will work. That's pretty much it.
Okay. Any specific academic requirements, such as the math skills or anything like that?
Yes, we have a long list of requirements. You have to be alive. We don't take zombies yet. No undead. So 18 years old, that's a state requirement. It's not ours, but we have to follow it. So you got to be 18 years old, have a high school diploma, a GED, or prior construction experience. If somebody had a parent or something that passed away and they had to drop out of school to go to work to help provide for that family, we are not going to discriminate against that person. We were going to welcome you with open arms. So we don't have any math tests. We don't have interviews. We don't have waiting lists. Our apprenticeship is open year round, Monday through Friday. You can come down any day and sign up as long as you're 18 years old. And I can say that we don't have a math requirement, but you need to know how to read a tape measure. And if you don't, the apprenticeship, they will teach you. Because if your contractor tells you, hey, go cut this board, this piece of rebar 7 3/4, and you come back and say, hey boss, I cut it twice and it's still too short, that's going to be a problem. Basic math is always good. If you get to the point where you're starting to run a crew and you're starting to do layout, there's this thing called the Pythagorean's theorem. I took geometry in high school and I barely squeaked by because I fell asleep in that class every day, because I used to tell myself, I will never, ever use this as an adult. This is garbage. And I'd take a nap. The only reason I passed that class is because my girlfriend at the time helped me with my homework every day. But when I became a foreman and you have to start putting lines on the ground, and we build things plumb, square, and level. And if it's not plumb, square, and level, you're going to have to redo it. So you learn that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So you have a square and you can check your work. So it does become important, but you don't have to know it right at the beginning.
Okay, thanks, Ken. And Sabrina, same question for you.
And just to piggyback off those two, be a team player. So no project can be done by one person. It takes everybody on the team to do it, whether it's the same craft or if it's a different craft. Everybody has to work together in a timeline to get things done. Being on time, definitely. If you're on time, if it starts at 7, you're already late because the crew's already working. Another thing with the dependability. So if they put you on a setup for that job, they expect you to be there because they need you to be there, not because they feel like you need a job. No, they put you on the setup because they need to have you. So those 2 things, just to piggyback off them. With the operating engineers, the 3 requirements: to be 18 years old, have a California driver's license, and the 3rd part, to live in Northern California. We do have an interview process. You must pass 2 interviews. A drug test. We are a 0 tolerance to any drugs, even medical regardless if it's medical marijuana or recreational, no marijuana at all. You don't want to be operating heavy equipment high. You don't want to kill somebody because you were high. So those are the three main things to get into our program. There's no math involved. There's no higher education. If you do become a grade setter, if you're good with numbers, but if you're not, they will train you on being a grade setter.
Great. Thanks, Sabrina. So Ken, we're going to go back to you and ask you, what is one of the most memorable days that you recall in your career? Or maybe one of the most memorable jobs that you worked on?
So are we talking good memorable or a bad memorable?
You know what? That's up to you. Yeah.
Good days are when you change the skyline of the city because you're setting structural steel, and you go to work and there's the beginnings of a high-rise building, and you leave work at the end of the day after working a 10-hour shift, and you've added 3 or 4 more floors of steel, and now you've changed the city skyline. You know, that building will be there for 100 or so years. So you're building that city. I like to say ironworkers, yes, we build the world. There's some other trades to help out a little bit, but it's us. A bad day is if there's a fatality on a job site. That's something that you're never going to forget. And there are days that I will never forget. So I'm sure all the trades are very much like this. The ironworkers apprenticeship, we stress a lot of safety. You know, working construction is dangerous. When you're working with heavy equipment and heavy beams and things, it is very dangerous. So one of the first classes you're going to take at our apprenticeship is a lot of safety. You know, we want you to be safe. We know we all go to the work for the same reason, to earn money, provide for a family. We don't want your family to be without you. So we watch out for each other and everybody else.
Great. Thanks, Ken. Jeremy, what about you?
Good question. I like it. A good physical day that just comes to mind since we're shooting from the hip here. I've stood on the edge of a 550-foot smokestack when the sun was coming up. 550 feet is about half the Empire State Building, and saw the sun come up. You take your little moments when you can. That was a nice day at work. I always remembered that. You got the view of the San Francisco, beautiful Bay Area, and the sun coming up. So you take your little moments when you can. There's always bad days. I can't even remember a specific one because I just concentrate on the good. But I'm sure there's been quite a few bad days. I'm sure they don't come to mind. But a good day was a nice view.
Okay, thank you. Sabrina?
Probably my most memorable day, I feel like I made it as a journeyman when I was given a company truck to be the paving operator. Not too many women in this field are paving operators. Usually a grade setter is given a truck, but I think because I got to that point where I could run a paving crew, I was given a company truck, and it made me feel like I really made it in this industry.
That's great. Thank you. So Sabrina, I'm going to keep it with you. How important is collaboration in your work?
Yeah, we can go back to what Jeremy and Ken were both saying. You have to learn to work with others. Collaborating with the same craft or different crafts. If you want to get the job done under budget and on time, it takes everybody to do their part.
Okay. Ken, what about you? How important is collaboration in your line of work?
It's extremely important. You know, Jeremy, Sabrina, and myself, we all represent union trades. There are non-union trades out there as well that don't get the same pay and benefits that we get. So we have to be able to work very efficiently. And if that means, hey, I've got to come in and put in an extra piece of steel right here because they need to hang something off it, and Jeremy's guys have some electrical lines through there, I'm not just going to rip their stuff out of the way like they used to do 30 years ago. We work together to get a project done correctly and efficiently so everybody makes money.
Great, thank you. And Jeremy.
Oh, could you restate the question? We're moving on to the next.
Absolutely. How important is collaboration in your work?
Okay, I thought we had moved on to a different question. Excuse me. Extremely important in the electrical field. Just like the other trades, safety is a key factor when you're dealing with electricity, electrical theory. There's science behind it, but it's still a theory. It can do some interesting things. So cooperation and teamwork is extremely important for safety, because if you think about electricity, you can't see it coming. Can't hear it, you can't see it coming. So you need to work with the person next to you. And if you're dealing with live electricity, you need to be able to trust that person in your education, and you're not going to have all the answers. So you need to be a team and cooperate and work with others, because there's not a single tradesman that has all the answers. And if safety's on the line, you want everyone's opinion.
Great, thank you so much. So Sabrina, let's go back to you. What do you think is the best thing about working in your trade, and what would be the most challenging?
I feel like with this trade, it's very mobile. So once you gain the skill of being a equipment operator, you're not stuck in one location. So if you want to move to a different state, you can bring these skills with you. If you feel that you would be good outdoors, if you're a type of person that has a lot of energy, this would be a good industry for you. On the second part, can you repeat the second question?
What is the most challenging?
Yeah, the challenging, so no construction site is going to be in the same location forever. You do have to commute for this type of industry. You go where the work is. I would say on the other end token of working outside, you do have weather conditions, whatever the extremes may be, really hot, really cold. Another part of this industry, a downturn, the economy. So if it's in a recession, the economy is going to be slower. Construction may be slower. If the economy is booming like it is right now, you can't find enough people for this type of work. So it does go in highs and lows.
Okay, thank you. And Jeremy, what about you? What do you think is the most, the best thing about working in electrical? And what is the most challenging?
Sure. Kind of a three-part question for myself. Some of the best aspects, I agree, is flexibility and having a trade and being a member of the IBW. It's the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. So we have a representation in a union hall in every major market in the continental United States and 8 other countries. We represent just under 1 million workers. So the flexibility is there, where if life changes, if economies take a downturn, I can pick up and go anywhere in the country as long as there's work, and I can get that job call. I can go to the Middle East, the Philippines, San Juan, Puerto Rico, Canada, you name it. There is multiple opportunities. Basically, anywhere you find the United States Army, you'll find IBW, Panama Canal, you name it. So the flexibility is key. And as you grow older, the young people in the webinar that maybe are still in high school, small things can add up to be very large as you progress in your career. So having the flexibility of knowing if this particular situation isn't working out for myself or my family, I can go back to the union hall. I'm not stuck in one place for 30 years, which for some individuals, if you don't have the right mentality, that can make you very bitter. And so I have a little flexibility there. I think that is one of the best parts of my industry, as well as the family aspect, the cooperation, the community. You grow tight bonds and close relationships. You can work a job with a guy for couple months, not see them for 10 years, and you're the best of friends when you see them again. Especially when you're working in electricity, a lot of oil refineries, high voltage, scary things at times. And if you got a solid guy working high voltage, you remember him. Some of the most challenging things for myself, yeah, you really got to find the good and all the bad. You will, if you're going to stay in the San Francisco Bay Area, you are going to be a super commuter. You are going to brush your hair in the car. You're going to brush your teeth in the car at times, especially in the trades. You're going to eat your breakfast in the car. You're going to know every good coffee stop and restroom between here and where you live, because if you're on the Nimitz 880, you're going to be there for a while. So commuting, I guess, would be the bad part, but there are many, many ways to turn that into your me time. And that is key. So hopefully that helps expand a little bit.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jeremy. Ken, same question for you. What is the best thing about being an iron worker, and what's the most challenging?
The best thing is, in my opinion, once you get your journeyman's card, you finish your apprenticeship. We are an international association, like Jeremy was saying. We can work anywhere. I've had friends of mine that have built a power plant down in Chile. I have one buddy that was a foreman on a project down in Brazil at a gold mine. I have a couple of buddies that worked over in England at the Wembley Stadium when they were retrofitting it. You know, we go where the work is. I said, as Jeremy was saying, one of the most challenging things is a commute. There's not very often you get to build a high-rise building in your backyard. So you drive where the work is. So whenever I'd get to a new job, very first day, sit down with the crew for lunch. Hey, anybody live in the North Bay? Want to commute together? Because sitting in traffic sucks. But if you have somebody to talk to, it sucks a little bit less.
So I want to kind of just throw in a question about that. All of you have mentioned going where the work is. What is, Ken, and you can start us off, what is the furthest commute that you've done?
So I live up in Napa. I think the furthest I've gone, I forget the name of the town. I worked at a prison down in Central California, down past Bakersfield, out in that area. So, you know, we're so far away from home, the contractor got a hotel room for us. We were there for, I think, 2 weeks. So we came home on the weekends, went back very early Monday morning. But, you know, 90% of the work that ironworkers do currently is right around the Bay Area between San Francisco, Oakland, and San Jose. That's like the Golden Triangle.
Okay, great, thanks. Sabrina, what about you?
Just to say too, as an apprentice, if you come to our program, you're not allowed to travel outside of Local 3's area. So our border would be the Kern County line to the Oregon border. As a journeyman, you can travel wherever you want. I've traveled down to Anaheim before, but being down there, the company put me up in a hotel. And if you are traveling distances like that, the employer will provide you subsistence pay. It's in your contract, and they will provide you a hotel. So don't let commuting scare you, but just be aware it is a part of it. At the time, I didn't have a family. It was just me and myself, so I could pick up and go. But contractors do look into that. They don't want to make you have to travel 2 hours in one direction for work. Contractors do want their employees to be happy, but it's just a part of it. And sometimes you do have to commute without getting subsistence, but just letting people know the truth about the trades.
Okay, thanks, Sabrina. And Jeremy, what about you?
I have an equal story as well. Yes, our good point, Sabrina. Our apprentices only stay within Napa, Solano County. So as an apprentice, a new person to the trade, you would just be working Napa, Solano County. As a journeyman, you have the freedom to go anywhere that you will. As a young man, before I had a family, I traveled up and down the West Coast from Oregon, Washington, Southern California, Arizona, pretty much stayed on the West Coast, but I traveled around a bit just for fun, just because I could. After marriage, you settle down a bit and children and all that. I live just north of Sacramento in a place called El Dorado Hills. So I signed up to be a super commuter working in a Bay Area local. The furthest commute I have done is, our longest commute is probably San Jose to El Dorado Hills, about 3 hours each way. I'm an extreme case. I take pride in doing whatever I have to do. I've always made it home. I've made a point of always making it home. Even if I drove 6 hours a day, I made it home to the family. So it is possible to work in the Bay Area trades and make it home every night. You may be tired, but you can do it.
Great, thank you. So Jeremy, I'm going to stay with you. You mentioned family. So one of my questions is, I hear a lot about long hours, very early mornings. How do you maintain your work-life balance in such a challenging line of work?
Yes, it can be challenging. It's a community effort. Once again, I might be a little bit of a unique situation because I come from that tribal mentality. So it's a team effort at home. You can organize your lifestyle once you learn it. You know when you're going to be working overtime. You know when summer comes around. You know when winter comes around, and you can organize it. It can be trying on a family situation. It can be difficult. You will have long hours. Not all money is good money, as they say in the trade. Sometimes you will pass on the overtime, even though it may be double time. It may be twice your normal rate. You might just pass on it. And one of the good things about being, at least in union trades, IBW Local 180, no overtime is mandatory. No employer can tell you you're working 12 hours a day. You can say, no, sir, I'm working 8 hours. And you have that right of denial. It can be a difficult situation for those of you that may be single parents out there, or, don't have the logistical support at home. It's possible. I was a single parent working the trades, had my daughter full time from the age of 3 years old to she's a teenager now. You have a union wage. I would employ care workers, care.com. These are people that come into your house, get your kid up and dressed to school, because you leave the house very early in the morning. They pick your kid up, bring them back, get dinner going, start homework, and you roll in. Once you beat that traffic, you do not have to be separated from your family. If there is a will, there's a way. You could do it in the trades. So hope that helps.
Yes, it does. Thank you. Ken, what about you? How do you balance work and personal life in such what sounds like a challenging career?
It can be very challenging. Like Jeremy was saying, for the IBEW, the ironworkers are the same. We have the right of refusal. So any overtime is optional. It is not mandatory. When I'm young and foolish, I worked as much overtime as I could because, young family, we have lots of bills. We bought our house and it's like, oh my God, how are we going to afford this? So I worked as much overtime as I could. When my wife got pregnant, I knew that things were going to change for me. When I grew up and I did things like after school sports or scouts or something like that, both my parents worked. So anytime I had like a band recital or a soccer game or a baseball game, my parents were never there. And I always envied the kids whose parents were there. So when my son was born, I told my foreman at the time, say, hey, I'm not working any more overtime. And of course he blew a gasket. What? We need you here. We got to say, okay, I understand that, but know this, I will not be here. So they transferred me to another crew. That's fine. I don't care. I'm still working. I'm still working full time, but I'm coming home every night and playing with my son. And I'm going to be to all his soccer games, basketball, baseball, whatever he decides to do. I'm going to be there to support him and my lovely wife. So that was a driving force for me. And, you know, to be completely honest, I didn't make every game. I didn't make every practice, but I made at least 80% of them. And my son appreciated it, and it made me feel good watching him, you know, excel at what he tried. So it was important to me. And if it's important to, you know, a young apprentice, they have the right of refusal. So. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And Sabrina, same question to you.
So I'm kind of young. I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I've been on staff for 2 years. My employer right now works with me really well with my schedule and my daughter. But when I was in the field, my husband is also in the field. He works for a contractor with the operating engineers as well. And so how we worked out the schedule is the contractor that I worked for, they were great with me. I would tell them, hey, I have to drop my daughter off at daycare at this time. And then when I get there, I get there. And they work with me. And then my husband would have to leave his job site in order to pick our daughter up from daycare. It was a struggle at the beginning. I made it work, but what else was I going to do? Give up my career because I had a kid? No. It's challenging right now when I see apprentices of mine that are females that get pregnant. They have the baby and then they leave the program because they feel like, oh, well, my husband's going to take care of me. Well, hopefully in 7 years, you guys are still together because you won't have this career. So I feel like if you really want it, you will make it work.
Okay, thank you so much. So we've got about 10 minutes left. So the one thing, there was a question that came up in the chat, and it was, what is your job called again? So Sabrina, you said operating engineers. Ken, yours is the iron workers?
Yes, iron workers.
Okay. And then Jeremy?
We are the electricians union.
Okay, great. So I'm going to give you one last question, and that is, looking at your life now and thinking back to perhaps when you were in high school, what is it that you wish somebody would have told you back then? And Jeremy, we'll start with you.
I wish someone would have told me how good this could turn out. It has turned out amazingly. The trades weren't really discussed so much. Where I came from, everyone was a logger or unemployed logger. I didn't really have a comprehension of what a good life learning a trade and being in a union trade could provide. I'm amazed daily. Lots of ups and downs in life. You take a lot of losses at times. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Life can be so problematic. Many young Bay Area kids are, quite frankly, it can go to prison or death. The trades, amazing option when you stare at some of those other negative options out there and influences. I wish someone had told me how good this could get.
Great, thank you. Sabrina, what about you?
I'd probably say in high school, if someone would have told me that the trade's not just the operating engineers, but all crafts need women, I probably would have felt more like I would have looked into it.
Okay, good point. And Ken, what about you?
I wish somebody would have told me, hey, there's this thing called the building trades. You don't have to go to school. You can do this right out of high school when you're 18. Like I said, I started when I was 29. I'm just about ready to retire, and I'm looking at a good pension. But if I would have started 10 years earlier, I would have an amazing pension right now. So my advice is, if you're not sure what you want to do, get into a building trade and do an apprenticeship. Because once you finish your apprenticeship and you get your journeyman's card, nobody can ever take that training away from you. Even if you decide you want to go and try something different, you can always come back and fall back on the training you already have.
Okay, so Ken, last thing, we'll stay with you. Somebody on the call today says, this is what I want to do. Where do they go?
You can look up ironworkers.org, or I will put my phone number in the chat. You are welcome to call me and I'll tell you exactly where to come and who to talk to sit you down and explain our apprenticeship program and how to get started.
Great, thank you. Jeremy, same question.
I'm very easy to find. Once again, my name is Jeremy Pecanum, and you will be Googling or looking for IBEW Local 180. You find your way to our website, or you find your way to the Union Hall. You just ask for Jeremy. If you want to get into the trade, just want some information, I will put my number in the chat as well. Feel free to email, text, or call.
Thanks so much. And Sabrina, it looks like you started to put some information in the chat. Could you also share the same information with us?
Yeah, so our website is oe3.org, Training California. There's going to be a orientation video you have to watch. Inside this orientation video, we'll have a code. You'll send your information to our training center. They'll send you back an application. Once you complete it, you'll take an entrance exam test. It's equivalent to the ASVAB. The minimum to score is a 33. It's basic math, basic reading, elementary comprehension. From there, you would do the interview process. We do take applications 6 months out of the year. So from January into the last day of June, we take applications. After that, you get put on a wait list. The wait list can be anywhere, depending on where you live, from 1 year to 2 years. So that's, even if you are 17 and a half, please apply now, because by 2023, if you're going to be 18, you qualify for the program.
Okay. Thank you so much for being a part of this today. I learned a lot, and hopefully you've inspired some folks on the call and given them some direction that they might not have had prior. I know personally, I spoke with several students that were not able to make the call today, but we'll be sending this recording out, and so they'll be able to get this information as well. And with that, Sita, I will go ahead and turn it back over to you to wrap things up.
Great. Thank you, Angela. And thank you so very much to our panelists today. We really appreciate that you took the time, probably after a long day. I know my husband's in the trades, and right about now, he's getting pretty tired. So thank you. We appreciate it. And I just was really inspired by each and every one of you. I feel like, I got to know you each a little bit through your stories. So thank you for bringing that in too. And beyond that, have a great dinner and a wonderful evening. And thanks for sharing your contact information.
You're welcome. You guys have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks for inviting us.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.